Hey guys, welcome to episode 29 of Ask Jungle Scout. Hope you guys have had a fantastic week. In other news, if you haven't checked out the part 2 of the $1 Million Case Study, we're now selling in Europe. We have Kim, who's a brand new seller to Amazon. She has Greg mentoring her through the process of finding and launching a product. So I highly recommend checking out part 2 of the $1 Million Case Study. If you wanted a question answered on Ask Jungle Scout, make sure to drop it in the comment section below this video, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for this video and all the others. And let's get to the first question. Lee asks, do Australians selling in the US normally form an LLC in the US or a proprietary limited company in Australia? So Lee, I can only speak for myself. I set up a company in Australia, and I believe that's totally fine to use that as the entity to sell on Amazon. However, you can actually use that entity to then create an LLC in the US as well if you wish. In my findings, it doesn't really matter which way you want to go. So just forming a company in Australia is fine. I found that was the easiest and most straightforward way to go about it. With public liability insurance, do Australians get this in Oz or in the US? And any companies you would recommend? Public liability insurance is probably not something that you absolutely need. I don't know too many sellers that have gone down that route of getting it. I certainly haven't. I know lots of other Australians that haven't done this either. Because you're primarily working online, there isn't as much of a need for public liability insurance, in my opinion. So I don't have any recommendations if you want to go down that route. Philip asks, while researching, I stumble upon many FBA products at a much lower price point than what you recommend, like $8 to $10. How is this profitable for those sellers? Quite likely, Philip, it isn't, or it's profitable to the point where they might be getting, like $1 profit or something very, very small. So just based off of that alone, it will probably take them a long time to scale and have enough profits in order to, invest in new products and so forth. Or they could be selling a really cheap $8 to $10 product that gets, hundreds and hundreds of sales. So they make it up in the sales volume. They're getting so many sales that those, whereas a person with a healthy $5, $7 profit might be getting 300 sales per month. This person with $1 profit might be getting 1,000 sales per month and make up for it that way. Regardless of how they're doing it, as we've mentioned before, it's not really worth setting your price that low. It's just, going to take you a long time to scale up your business. So just stick with going for products that are priced at a higher price point. Steve asks, is it within Amazon policy to sell multiple brands of the same product or niche? For example, I can have a brand name ABC selling a red baby hooded towel with a unique design, then launch another brand name XYZ selling a slightly different designed baby hooded towel. Yeah, absolutely, you can do that. A couple of things I'd mention though is I'm not entirely sure why you would want to have two competing versions of a particular product. If you've got slight variations of the product, you're probably better off putting them under the same listing and having a variation of that particular product so that all the reviews that you get for either of them go under that one listing so that you're really building up that one listing. That would be my suggestion rather than having two different listings for a very similar product. The other thing to keep in mind is brand registry. If you have two different listings from two different brands, if you wanted to get brand registry, which gives you access to enhanced brand content, which is like images in your description, and it gives your brand more protection if anyone tries to hijack it or anything else, then you would need to get a trademark for both those brands. So trying to minimize the number of brands that you have is probably a good idea. So if you can stick to just having the one brand, it's probably better for you in the long run. Mendy asks, I found a product that has a lot of demand and a bunch of sellers with low reviews selling substantial amounts. Problem is there are a bunch of sellers that are also just not selling substantial amounts, and I don't find a reason why, meaning there are a lot of sellers with good listings, good ratings, over 20 reviews, and are on the first page, but yet some sell well, some don't. Is it too risky to get into a product like this? Hey Mendy, yes, it sounds like it might be a little bit risky to go into this particular niche. It sounds like in your top listings, maybe in your top 10 or so listings, it sounds like half of them are selling quite well and the others aren't. What we try to look for is that the sales are fairly well spread out. So we want to see that, the sales are fairly well distributed so that no matter where you place in those top 10 listings, you're, fairly likely to capture that share of sales. If only some of the listings are selling quite well and others aren't, then I probably wouldn't go into that market. I can't say exactly why some of those listings aren't and others are. However, that is the reality. So I would just avoid going into a niche like that. Mo asks, first time seller found a product via Jungle Scout extension with high sales volume and low reviews. The issue is all reviews are positive and there really is nothing to improve on this product. I'm thinking about bundling, but someone already bet me to it with my bundling idea. Everything else seems to be no value add. Is this worth pursuing if all I'm going to do is change the print design of the product, but the quality is going to be the same as the competitors? Would you consider copying the same bundling item? Help. This is an interesting question because we talk a lot about differentiation, how you always want to, find a product that's, sells high, has low competition, and then make a little twist to it by either bundling it with something else or, making a slight improvement to the product to beat the rest of the competition. But what do you do if you've gone through all those steps and you can't find anything to improve, or someone else has already done the best idea for a bundle? Should you still go ahead with that product? So it's a tricky question. I can't answer this for your particular product without seeing it, because this will change depending on the product. What I would say here is that quite likely, if you wanted to sell this product, I would say go into it with the mentality that you've just got it for a window of time. You might have 6 months or a year where you could go into that market, build up a good listing, and dominate for a while, or make a good amount of sales and profit for a period of time. But I would always keep in mind the fact that really your listing isn't overly different to anyone else's. More people will most likely come into this market because it's selling well. So I would keep that in mind and kind of, I would look at the profit margins. If you can get a significant profit margin on this product, I would potentially look at selling it and, just work towards building up enough profit and moving on to the next product. Compared to other products where you might differentiate them and you might be planning to go into that product line for the long haul, and really building it up and really dominating that niche in the long term, this one might be more of a short-term product. That's another way to look at it. That's just my opinion. So yeah, I would go back to looking at what is the profit margin on this product, how cheap is it to source. If it's fairly cheap to source and you've got a fairly reasonable profit margin, then yeah, I would probably still go in and sell it, but just keep in mind that it might have an expiry date. So that's all the questions for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed those. If you've got some value, please give us a thumbs up on the video. It really makes a big difference and we appreciate it. If you want your question to be answered on the show, make sure you drop it in the comment section below this video. There'll also be a link below this video to the part 2 of the $1 million case study that I mentioned at the start. Definitely check that one out. It's a free A to Z resource of all the steps involved with launching a product on Amazon, but also specifically in the European marketplace. So thanks for joining today. I look forward to answering your questions next time. See you guys.